Hi, I'm Bob, and this is Art with Bob Pincus. I'm standing in front of the new Geffen Galleries of the LA County Museum of Art, called that because of the biggest donor, obviously, is David Geffen, along with the county of LA. The building itself, when you're outside, I think it has quite a pleasing sort of look to it. I think it's the gentle curves of it, sort of like it reminds me of those biomorphic forms, sort of organic forms you'd see in early mid-20th century painting. Obviously it makes it on a much grander scale, but it doesn't have a scale which overpowers the street. I thought about the idea that it was going to go over Wilshire Boulevard. I thought that could be really, you know, kind of grandiose. But it doesn't look grandiose. It sort of looks, the height of it's just about right. So I don't even think the people in Wilshire are that distracted by it. And I like the idea that there's really not much color to the building. The idea is sort of the gray and the concrete. I think, having a color of any kind more than that would probably date it. And it has kind of a nice way of getting in through that staircase up to the building. I think that's a very nice sort of way of entering. What's unusual about this museum, any museum I've ever been to in terms of a museum that has a encyclopedic style collection, is the idea that you're on one level all the time. It's not organized the way a traditional museum is organized. That was a big deal, I think, for what they wanted to do. The idea is, don't do it historically, do it geographically. So you have these ideas of, you have Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, is sort of like an organizing idea. Although, truthfully, when you're wandering through, you do lose track of these oceans. Since it's not chronological and it's thematic, you have contemporary stuff with historical stuff, and so it's meant to sort of be able to reorganize your brain, just sort of looking at whatever you want to look at. There's problems with the space, I think, in the sense that you have so many windows. And so much street view. It allows a lot of light in. And so, for example, when you get to one of the showcase pieces, the Francis Bacon triptych, 3 panels of Lucian Freud from 1969. That's a big deal piece because Lane Wynn apparently bought it at auction for like $142 million, with the idea it'll be gifted to the museum when she passes away. But it's at the museum already. You cannot get it lit in a way that it doesn't have reflection from the windows. It's not possible. It's not awful, but it is a little distracting for a big piece like that. I don't think it's probably as good as Michael Govan thinks it is or wants it to be, but it's better than a lot of the really negative reviews. I certainly thought, for example, like the Egyptianary was pretty effective. Where you have the ancient art, and then you have an untitled Sphinx piece by contemporary artist Lauren Halsey, well-known Los Angeles artist. And the pictographic and text on it is really the history of South Central LA. The building came in for a lot of criticism. I'm talking about going back to like 2018, 19, I believe, when the LA Times art critic Chris Knight wrote a lot of negative pieces about how terrible it was going to have cast concrete walls. That's not going to be good for showing art. It's going to be difficult to install. There were some other architecture reviews that have come through that are not terribly positive about it. My impression is it's not as stark as the negative reviews say. It's more pleasing to be inside it than I would have thought from what I read ahead of time. So you can't always trust the critics, like me. My feeling is most people will feel like it's if they don't think it's a totally positive experience, they're going to feel like it's a memorable experience because the memorable nature of walking through a building like that and wandering. That is one idea that has been sort of promoted, the idea you'll wander through the space rather than go have deliberate, like, I'm going to go see this, X, Y, or Z. As you're walking through the space, you will get to galleries where there's one kind of art organized in a much more traditional way. For example, they have a great collection of Dutch paintings given by Edward Carter, who was the first board president of the museum, and I think it was his second wife, Hannah. They gave this collection to the museum, and it has really good Dutch paintings, landscape, still life, etc. And that's really much more like a traditional gallery. And the same can be said of a gift from Jared Perenchio. Give it a modern collection. By modern, I mean late 19th century through mid 20th century. So there's like a really good Picasso painting, small one, woman with flowered hat. There's a really good Cézanne painting. That is much more traditional. So you have these pockets of tradition within the kind of a-traditional organization of the collection. My advice to anybody going through a first time, wander through, see what interests you. A lot of people who don't spend a tremendous amount of time in museums probably don't care that it's organized historically. Now, people who do spend a lot of time in museums, you'll find it a little disorienting, but maybe disorienting in a good way. It's something different. I think it still needs to be fine-tuned, this idea of the thematic thing. It seems to have some ragged moments. Hey, it's a first installation. I'm standing in front of the new Geffen Galleries of the LA County Museum of Art. Thanks for watching.